is suffering from his injuries received on the road to Rouen, and the doctors have stopped him from riding and told him he must stay off the bike for at least 2 weeks. So 3 big names out of the Tour de France: Argentin, Fignon and Giovanetti, the winner of the Tour of Spain, and this race is only on stage number 6. The overall situation then, this is it. Steve Bauer on top with a 34 seconds advantage over Ronan Pensek, and in 6th place, our favourite, Raul Alcala, at 10 minutes 2 seconds. Sean Kelly is 7th, Stephen Roche is 18th, Eric Breukink is 20th, and Greg LeMond, with his big time trial to come tomorrow, is in 23rd place, 10 minutes 41 seconds behind. Pedro Delgado, the real race favourite on the lips of a lot of people here, is wallowing in 82nd place over 12 minutes back. So as you can see, this Tour de France is all queuing up behind Steve Bauer with a lot of time to pick up. Today's stage starts here in Saarburg, and it takes us over a couple of small hills. You know, the organisers could have chosen to run the race right through the Vosges Mountains, but instead just 2 4th category climbs, taking us on the 203 kilometres to the finish in Vittel.
And the field rolled out this morning under grey skies, heading for a couple of days now in the beautiful area of the Lorraine and the Moselle. Heading down the side of the Vosges Mountains, and if you remember a couple of years ago when we were in the Vosges Mountains, that was which caused all of the first troubles of the ANC Halfords team that rode, and Paul Watson and Graham Jones were forced to retire on the climb of the Col de Donon. Well, the field will be grateful that they have been spared that today. And at the first sprint, a victory for the Soviet rider, Zhimodalin Abdou-Japarov, who gets the 6 seconds bonus ahead of Olaf Ludwig and Davis Finney. Finney coming back to form all of the time in this race. And for the whole day, the field have rolled along together. Here they are, quite happy to stay together. They've been passing through very heavy rainstorms. And not starting this morning, another surprise, Etienne de Wilde, the Belgian sprinter, who was narrowly beaten into 3rd place the other day at Rouen. He apparently has been having dizzy spells and has gone back to Belgium for tests. Well, the field at last beginning to warm themselves up. And these last couple of kilometres, constant attacks in the field, Paul, and obviously they can now scent the finish.
Well, a lot of riders here want to try and get away, because tomorrow most of them won't have very much chance in the time trial, so they'll be using a lot of energy, especially after the, well, not really the rest day, the transfer day yesterday. A lot of them will have had a little bit of time to recuperate, quite a lot of nervous energy. They'll want to make the most of it.
Well, there is good news for the Soviet team today. They've obviously had a big talk yesterday because Abdou-Japarov came out and took that opening sprint at Dierze at 29 kilometres. But since then, over the 2 small climbs today, the Côte d'Armelicourt and the Côte de la Flèche, they have actually sent their man Konosheyev up. He's won them both, and that has given him the polka dot jersey as leader of the King of the Mountains. So he's taken it away from Claudio Chiappucci. And there's a little bit of history there because he now becomes the first Soviet rider and indeed the first of the Alpha Lum team to ever carry the polka dot jersey in the Tour de France. So the Soviets lead in the King of the Mountains. The East German rider Olaf Ludwig leads in the green jersey. So their debut is now very much complete. Well, as the field rolls down towards the finish at Vittel, the race, by the way, has only been here once before. That was 1968 when the Tour de France started from Vittel with a prologue time trial, which was won by Charlie Grosskos, and hasn't been here since. So the riders won't know the finish, and as we've come in just recently to the finishing line here, it is a very difficult finish indeed. It's narrow road, it's completely barriered, but the feet of the barriers stick out into the road, and it's quite dangerous.
It is very dangerous. It narrows in, and those feet are one of the worst things that you could actually hit, because not only does it put you off, but it'll throw you across the road and bring down a lot of other riders. And here at the front now, one of the riders who'll probably try and get away in a little group towards the end is Eddie Planckaert.
Probably tired from his road drive down here yesterday of 700 kilometres or more, because he refuses to fly. He won't go to the World Championships in Japan this year because there's no other way to get there other than by air. So he's told the team selectors he won't be selected for the World Championships. Well, we've had one crash today. It came at 138 kilometres. Over a dozen riders tumbled, but all reports are they're up and back in the field and no injuries. No names either as to who was involved. But let's hope that Robert Miller is kept out of trouble, because he's had an unfortunate start to the tour and he's lost a lot of time because of crashes. Although his morale seems to be quite high. Stephen Roach too, very concerned about tomorrow's time trial. Stephen Roach, he expects to lose over a minute, he said, to Greg LeMond in the time trial. He's relying very heavily on doing something in the hills that are coming in during the week next week. And Steve Bauer, well, his defence of that yellow jersey will really begin tomorrow in the time trial. And when you think that we have 87 miles of time trialling before we finish in Paris, people are saying that Greg LeMond will regain in the time trials alone between 6 and 7 minutes on Steve Bauer, and that will leave him searching for about 3 minutes elsewhere in the race. So it could well be that once this first time trial is under the belt tomorrow, this Tour de France will become a really terrific race. Confidence in the Lotto team as they sit on the front. So there's been a crash here, and we're back at the field. This is the Carrera team who are down. 176 is Flavio Gipponi. And again, these crashes coming as the race winds up for the finish. The roads are quite narrow here. And the Kellner rider looking for a bike third is Mario Lara, I think. Somebody is really... And this is one of the riders from the Toshiba team too has gone down. Christian Chauvet. And he looks painfully okay as he's getting back on his bike. Well, this is the second big pile-up of the day. We've had one of a dozen or so, and this looks to be about the same size of the crash again. Sean Kelly was telling us at the airport yesterday he's been on the floor at least 3 times, and Robert Miller likewise. And I really don't know why the riders are crashing quite so much, because conditions at the moment are quite dry. But we're back with the leaders now, and they are still very much all together, as they've still got something like 40 kilometres to go. So as they wind through the village, the riders having to chase back to the back of the main peloton. We'll take a short break, but don't go too far away.
Of ones, maybe 10 months of the year, and the schedule's scarcely less tough for the photographers who follow the race circuit. So you'd think a marriage between a professional photographer and a professional rider would be the perfect compromise. Well, according to Ron and Darcy Kiefel, it's not the case.
Since the Tour de France has started, I've seen him, I think, 5 minutes.
The only time I get to see her maybe are 2 minutes in the morning when I see her shooting riders at the start line, and I wave, I say hi, maybe get a kiss, and then at the finish, you know, she's off trying to take her photos, and so I just ride by and hop in the team car, and maybe I'll get a phone call. So it's like she's here, but she could be on the other side of the ocean.
This is a rare moment of togetherness for Ron and Darcy Kiefel in a marriage which by most standards is unconventional. He shaves his legs and shares a hotel room with another man for most...
With the exception of Greg LeMond, their leader, is now trying to drag Ronan Pensek back up to the front field, and the gap is opening, Paul.
Well, it is. It's a difficult time in the race to try and get back after a crash like that. The crosswinds have split the race all completely up at the front. And now I wonder what you can see here is Pensek and his teammates trying to get back into contention.
Well, there's Roger Leger right alongside his team, trying to pull the best out of them. The commissaires won't leave him there too long, because this is indeed the most crucial part of the Tour for the Z. They've moved up to second overall. There was hopes that they may be able to challenge Bauer for that yellow jersey, because Pensek is a good climber. And they've brought back all of the Z team here, and Leger is going to stay there as long as he can, but I'm sure his radio in a minute will tell him, if it hasn't already done so, to come away from the team.
Well, they will, but they'll be shouting at the Z car to get out of the way there, because Leger coming up on the right-hand side of the road there will protect him a little bit from the wheel. This is Cavaldol coming through there in second place. Going to come through in a minute is Pensek. In there somewhere is probably Robert Miller.
Well, that's it. Akla Volswol who comes through. Now Robert Miller buries himself, swings through and off. We're getting no time check, so I can't tell you if they're closing in at the moment on that group. But look at all these riders delayed. And they're not really very interested, you know, in helping the chase either. That's Peter Winnen in the Championships jersey who won a week before the Tour. Now, it looks like they're there, Paul, because we're going to see it from the aerial shot here. as they come through the trees at the front of the field. Here we are back at the front. The Chateau d'Ax are really moving well, and Bauer's not too far away from it either.
I think the way that group was going at the back there, next time we get a view of the field, I think they'll all be back together. But it must have been quite a shock for Ronan Pansek to be thrown out the back like that.
Well, that was 10 or 15 kilometres ago. We have now a breakaway that's formed just in fact as Pansek and the Z team came back into the race. The riders started sprinting off the front, and we have in fact 6 riders who've now built a lead of 33 seconds over the field. We'll be catching up with those very, very quickly. This is the main field here. Let me tell you straight away the composition of the leading group. 2 Panasonic riders have made the gap. Vyacheslav Yekimov, their Soviet rider, and Guy Nullens. And from the Buckler team, who've already won 2 stages, they've got Jelle Nydam. The sprint finisher has got up there. Johan Museeuw has had a first and a second place already this week. Fidanza of Italy, who won a stage in the Tour de France last year at L'Île d'Abo, the day before the Tour ended, and the Danish rider Jesper Skibby. They are the riders in the lead, and you can see now that the riders wearing the black-coloured jerseys to the right of our picture, they are the Chateau d'Ax riders trying to slow down the chase now in favour of Fidanza. In fact, it's now gone up to 50 seconds, so this breakaway is going well. The Carrera team are not having any effect on the chase at all. You can see all the white jerseys of the Carrera squad from Italy. But I think Paul Sherwin is absolutely right. We've seen the finish here today. It is a difficult finish. They swoop downhill, a very narrow road. They turn sharp right, and then a short straight, sharp right again, and then they have a nasty little climb up to the finishing line, and that is not the sort of sprint finish that Bontempi would like. But I do think, Paul, it's the sort of finish that perhaps Nydam might like.
Well, I think he would. He's a very strong finisher at the moment, and he's probably one of the fastest in the world. Last year, he rode extremely well towards the end of the season. This year, he's been very quiet in the sprints. I think it's probably because Eric van der Aarden has come into the team, and he's been leading out the sprints again. You see, there's not a lot of fluidity in this in the breakaway here, because nobody really wants to totally dedicate themselves to this breakaway. And as we're talking there, Jelle Nydam decided, well, I don't want to wait any longer.
So Nydam tries to create a situation in the break where they will either split up or chase him, because a little lethargy creeping in there. Slow to react is Fidanza, who is a real prospect for the win if it does come to the sprint finish. But look at this, Nydam is a tremendous rider on the flat. He's become an all-round cyclist. He's the son of Henk Nydam, who was the World Pursuit Champion in 1961. And he's developed all of his father's pure speed, but he's gone further than that because he's become a top road racing cyclist as well. Museeuw at the front, obviously willing to help.
You see here that Guy Nullens at the back is not doing anything at all to contribute to this, because he realises that he'd probably finish 3rd out of 3 if this group gets to the finish. And the Panasonic team, they're racing just to win. Therefore, for Guy Nullens, 3rd place doesn't mean anything at all.
But it would give him a lot of points, Paul, for the green jersey, and he's 2nd overall in that competition. And maybe with the 2 good placings he's had, he's feeling he might well be able to win that green jersey this year. On the field, still being led by the Carrera team, and Nydam still trying to split up the field here, and there's a rider gone clear.
Well, that's Guy Nullens who's just jumped away there with Jelle Nydam just chasing after him. You can see there's no cooperation at all in this group here. There's Johan Museeuw. He doesn't want to chase because he's just chased the last one down, and there Jesper Skibby was coming through to probably try and bridge the gap. But you see Nydam's getting across to Nullens here, but he's having a hard ride.
Now you can see the style of Jelle Nydam. He won the Paris-Brussels Classic and the Paris Tour Classic last year. He also won 2 stages of the Tour de France. You may remember he slipped away from the field at Gap and at Wascal, almost in sight of the finish, and snatched victory. He had a superb season, and he won the opening stage of the Nissan Classic in Ireland as well. But he's having to fight to get on to Guy Nullens. But Nullens has spotted him coming. He decided it's better to wait for him and share the workload than to try and hold him off at 20 metres. So they're both together. And you see that Nullens is lying 10th place overall in the race at 10 minutes 18 seconds. No visions of winning the Tour de France, Guy Nullens. but certainly a chance to move up the overall classification for a while at least. And the whole entourage of the Tour de France, first chance we've seen that, as the field have completely regrouped behind from the earlier crash. I'm moving up to see if those 4 riders have been picked up or whether they're still just down in front. It looks, Paul, as though they've been picked up, and we're just going to have the 2 leaders now. Nope, there they are, and they still have a good lead as well, but there's 2 men ahead of them now, of course, and we're going up to see them as well, Nydam and Guy Nullens. And there's Robert Miller, who's got to the front now. He's been asked to come up and do something about closing down this gap a little bit, and I think Robert needs to do this because he's had his confidence knocked by the accidents. He in fact lost 5 minutes, it turned out, on the main field when he came into Rouen covered in dirt the other day, and today he's been employed bringing back Pensek into the group, which he did with great efficiency. He's having his best season. He has all the form he requires to do so well in this year's Tour de France, but things have to go just right for him. Once his morale gets disturbed, then his form disappears, and it's good to see Robert up at the front right now. There are changes here, Paul.
Well, the four chasers have come back, Phil, as we come to the 3 kilometres to go sign, so that's going to change everything now. If Ekimov really is the rider that he was with the amateurs, you'd expect him to try and jump away here, because if he can get a gap, but there's not very many men in the world could catch him, and there Ekimov goes just as I'm expecting him to, but he's taking Fidanza in his wheel.
Well, I would be very surprised if Fidanza could hold the wheel for very long of Ekimov. Ekimov is the world hour record holder on the track. He is the fastest rider when it comes to pure man against the watch, and that is why Peter Post snapped him up and paid him £500,000. And I think, Paul, with 2Ks to go, because we're going down this very narrow corridor now, and will take us right down to the bottom with a sharp right turn, and this could be a good move now. The bunch may not come back.
Yeah, but as we're talking, it looks as if there's one rider gone clear, and I think that's probably Skibby has gone away, which is why Ekimov's at the front trying to bring it back. Now there's the aggravation here between the Panasonics and the Buckler. They don't want to take Nydam up there, so it's quite possible that Skibby can get away. Skibby and Fidanza up there, actually, Phil, at the moment. It's difficult to see, but there are, in fact, 2 riders, and they must have come together.
So it was a good move by Skibby to go back into that space, because he's gone clear at exactly the right moment. I think they may have escaped here and have got the win. One of them anyway. Now watch Fidanza, because Chateau d'Ax come to the Tour de France each year. They always take a stage somewhere, then they usually give us the thrill of all the emotion of winning the Tour, because the Italians are very emotive people, and the pictures we've seen over the years of Valerio Tebaldi, he's had 2 stage wins here in the Tour de France. Fidanza's round the corner, very tight corner this, and then is a straight as we go through the town of Vittel, but then we have 1 kilometre to go, then we have 1 bend to come under that bridge there, and then it's uphill. And you see Fidanza is holding his position at the back, and Skibby is being left to do all of the work. There's the peloton on that bend now. They're as close as that, and Fidanza knows it because he looked over his shoulder. This is the rise to the finish now. Skibby has done the wrong thing by putting himself on the front in front of a sprinter like Fidanza. Fidanza will win this on 1 leg, I think, if he doesn't do anything wrong right now, but he's given the back position to Skibby. And Fidanza's coming up, the other 4 are right on them as well, and the winner could still come, because Musio will start sprinting early. That's the rider in the pink jersey, and Yellow Nydam also on the lead of the group here. There's the whole peloton behind. Olaf Ludwig in the green jersey on the far left of our picture. Sean Kelly is there in the centre as well, and so they could catch them on the line. It's a nasty climb up this hill, and just look at this now. Fidanza's made it all wrong. He has got himself back into 2nd place behind Skibby, but watch Yellow Nydam, the rider in the blue tops of the jersey, on the right of the picture, and Musio coming 2 on the inside. Nydam goes now, Skibby goes up into 2nd place. Now they go for the line. This will be a tremendous finish, as the whole field are going to come in right behind them as they make this sweeping corner, as they come up towards the line now. Nydam has taken it from Skibby on the line. Musio is 3rd, Fidanza is 4th, Ekimov is 5th, Newlands is 6th, and the whole field comes up now, and it looks to me as though on the line there Olaf Ludwig is beaten this time by Baffy, right on the line. The yellow jersey of Bauer is safely in the field, the whole field coming in. They'll be timed in all together today, so there'll be no change overall. But Yellow Nydam, we did tell you he was a good man for this sort of finish, read it exactly right.
Here's the result then, a win for Jelle Nijdam, and the Buckler team from Holland having a great opening week in the Tour de France. They've won 3 stages now. Nijdam pipped Jesper Skibby, the man that started that move, and in 3rd place, Johan Museeuw. The sprinter for Danza really should have been better than 4th. One man was smiling at the finish, and that was Ronan Pensek. He'd had that problem by being delayed by the crash, and then thanks to his Z team, led by Robert Miller in the chase back up, they rejoined the field, and I'm not surprised he's smiling because he has retained his 2nd place. Here's the overall situation. Steve Bauer still leads, no change at all on the leaderboard today because the main field were only just behind those 6 leaders. Bauer then is on top, 34 seconds ahead of Pensek, and Frans Maassen is 3rd. And a slice of history in the Tour de France tonight because a Soviet rider is in the lead in one of the competitions. Dmitry Konosheyev pulls on the polka dot jersey as leader of the King of the Mountains. He won both of the climbs today to take the lead. And the other Eastern rider who's doing well, Olaf Ludwig, he finished 8th to keep his lead in the green jersey competition as the race's most consistent daily finisher. But the big challenge tomorrow, that will come in the time trial. At last, Greg LeMond will be free to see just how good Steve Bauer is. And LeMond will be fitting those strange handlebars again that have done him so well in the prologue time trial and, of course, in last year's Tour de France, which he went on to win. All of the Tour favourites will come out tomorrow and try to